Jennifer Knegon, thanks for being with us. Jennifer, we'll start with you and your reaction to this verdict.
I want to say that I'm surprised, but I'm not. I'm glad to see that he is guilty and will be receiving a life sentence. I think that was absolutely necessary. Just a little bit troubled to read that there was evidence introduced from testimony from a psychiatrist from like the UK to speak on behalf of his mental health. So I think that really draws into question the integrity of how we weight evidence and testimony from so-called experts, and I'm really glad that the court did take that into consideration, that it didn't really hold much weight.
Knegon, you and I were talking about that before. You were in the courthouse. Can you kind of set the scene for us and give us your take on the reaction to the guilty verdict?
It's a complicated decision for a fairly simple outcome. It's almost impossible to imagine any other verdict from this trial. However, it is the justice system, it is Canada, which at many times never fails to disappoint. And in this case, though, the justice system did get it right. The Crown prosecutors were very congratulatory of the Winnipeg police and their conduct of the interview of Skibicki, where he admitted to the murder of those four women. And so that's an interesting kind of trend within the case, because the Winnipeg police have been heavily criticized by the families of not acting quick enough. But this complicated decision kind of took about an hour plus, where the courtroom was generally in a position of trying to hear what Justice Joyal was saying about why he said the not criminally responsible defense was inappropriate and was completely unacceptable for the reasons that Jennifer pointed out. The psychiatrist used by the defense was inexperienced and incapable of handling a comment around or a diagnosis of not criminally responsible. And the reality is that the macabre details that came out within the decision was stomach turning. And it was also very emotional, I think, for the families, who burst into applause when finally, after about an hour, the verdict for all four murder charges was read out as guilty.
Jennifer, talking about criticism for police, a resolution was passed by chiefs and proxies at the AFN General Assembly calling for an independent inquiry into this and the handling of it all by Winnipeg Police and the previous Manitoba government, their failure to start a search. What could be gained, do you think, from the inquiry?
I think a lot of feedback that needs to be implemented at all different levels of government, and especially in our public-facing services like the police. The fact that we had a previous government that went into an election campaigning on the concept of not searching the landfills spoke volumes. But it also is incredibly scary, because that really goes back to the conversation around stigmatization and the devaluing of human life, which is an issue that, I like to speak frequently about on my platforms. Is why are we getting to the point where we are so comfortable devaluing human life to take an issue that is complex, like searching the landfill, but then also know that you're going to somehow gain votes for your base by talking about how you won't search the landfill because they knew that would make people in their party happy. And that's concerning. And so I think what this report is really highlighting the various different levels of government, the responsibility of the police, and how we are framing the messaging and the tone around how we value life, especially Indigenous women.
Knegon, still sentencing to happen, the actual search of the landfill. I understand the lodge will be placed on site near the landfill next week. What happens next? We're far from over here.
There'll be days of victim statements, impacted family members who will be reading out statements to the court to put on the record the ways that this trial has impacted them. We'll also be hearing about there's no option for sentencing, but that the options for their what dates will be discussed and to when the sentencing will take place. All of that has yet to be determined for the weeks ahead. But generally, I think what's going to be seen is a real big focus. As every family member came out to speak to the media, and there was dozens of media. In fact, we ran out of seats in the courtroom for the number of media, all the way to the BBC, down to the United States. I mean, there are many thousands of eyes of media watching this trial today. There's a real intention by the family members to push the dialogue towards the Searching the Landfill issue. There's a round dance happening in downtown Winnipeg just in a few minutes that will then occupy the family's attention, the supporters' attention, to try to bring Winnipeggers to the idea that this issue is not over with.
Niiga and Jennifer, we'll have to leave it there. Appreciate you both being here.
Thanks.